Hi there, Phil the Practical Gardener again. This tip that I'm producing is about the criteria that you would use if you were deciding which fruit to grow in your home garden. As you can see, I've got a range of citrus growing here, mandarins, this mandarin is nearly ready for eating, and orange, and also some other citrus around me. Now, I have got them in a specific area in my garden where they are sheltered from the wind, they get full sun, and they also get reflected heat back from the fence that you can see behind them there. So the citrus and also the grape that's growing on the tree, and there's actually an apple hanging from my neighbour's fruit tree there, it's actually ideal for fruit production. There are two types of crops that you can grow in a home garden. One is vegetable, the other is fruit. Out of the two, fruit is the easier one to grow and to get a crop off with the least amount of effort. In fact, with some of these, virtually all of the maintenance I do is just simply picking the fruit, which is great. Whereas vegetables do require a significant amount of ongoing work through the year. So let's talk about the different criteria that you should use when you're deciding which fruit to grow in your garden. First of all, size. Now some trees actually grow too big for a home garden, really, if it's a smaller one, such as pears and apples, and also stone fruit, nectarines, peaches, apricots, etc. However, in many cases the trees are available on dwarfing rootstocks. These not only limit the size of the tree, but often promote early and prolific fruiting. In other cases, miniature varieties of the plants have been bred, particularly in the case of stone fruit, such as peaches and nectarines. All berry fruit, such as blueberries and raspberries, are small plants, although the canes of brambles, that is blackberries, boysenberries and such like, can scramble for some distance. Citrus, particularly mandarins, are reasonably small growing, but others, such as grapefruit, can grow large. Secondly, sunlight. Virtually all fruit have a high requirement for sunlight. Now, in a domestic situation, it's likely that you will actually get shading from fences or neighbouring houses through part of the day. So the main requirement is that they actually get sunlight for, say, at least 5 or 6 hours during the day, from late morning through to mid-afternoon. Thirdly, frost. Now, in the temperate zone, it is likely that you will be getting frost through part of the year. And a lot of trees are deciduous, of course, so therefore they are adapted to this. I'm looking at pip fruit, apples, pears and stone fruit also. Persimmons would be another one which is actually dormant during the winter period. Many otherwise hardy trees can be damaged by out-of-season frosts, either killing the flowers and the tender new foliage in spring or the ripening fruits in autumn too. Commercial orchards do have mechanisms such as fans and other devices to protect sensitive parts from the frost. However, these aren't an option for the home gardener, of course. Frost cloth thrown over smaller plants can give protection for several degrees of frost. However, they're only practical for some plants such as citrus. Fruit with lower degrees of tolerance are generally subtropical fruits which can be grown in some temperate areas. This includes, of course, citrus, also kiwis or kiwi fruit, avocado and passion fruit. Fourthly, the amount of chilling that the plants get. Some plants actually do require a chilling period during the winter to actually initiate flower and fruit development. Examples are cherries and apricots. In other cases, such as apples, peaches and pears, the chilling requirement varies according to the species, so more tolerant varieties can be purchased. Fifthly, humidity. Now, I live in quite a high humidity environment here, and so some fruit are particularly liable to attack by fungus and bacteria in those conditions. In our case here, it is cherries, apricots, peaches, nectarines are the main stone fruit that are affected by high humidity. I don't consider that it is particularly worth growing them here. However, plums are very tolerant of a high humidity, so we can grow them quite satisfactorily. Most pip fruit and berries are perfectly tolerant of high humidity. The next aspect is water supply. Some plants, for instance these citrus here, and also subtropical fruits such as tamarillos, do actually require a regular supply of water, and this might be an issue if you're in a dry area or only have a limited availability of water in your situation. Apples and pears are deep rooted and once established will tolerate a degree of dryness. Stone fruit, pomegranate, grapes and olive trees are all comfortable in dry conditions. In the case of citrus, you can put a layer of mulch over the soil to conserve moisture. This isn't practical with trees that have a more extensive root system, such as pip or stone fruit. Next, the soil conditions. These citrus that I have here do actually require good aeration and drainage around the roots. Now, I do have a problem about waterlogged soil here in winter. However, these plants are actually all grown on a raised bed. It's only about 8 or 10 inches, that is to say 20-25 centimetres above the natural soil level, but that is enough because citrus have got a shallow fibrous root system that is sufficient to actually lift them above the higher water table. So I don't have any trouble with these. When I did grow one at normal ground level, it did fruit for a number of years and then it actually suddenly died, and it wasn't actually a great surprise to me. So you can do something about drainage. Fruit that are comfortable in soil with poor drainage include pears, cranberries and raspberries. Finally, pollination requirements. Some trees do actually require a cross-pollination from a related variety of the same species of tree to actually set fruit and pollinate. An example would be apples and stone fruit. Nurseries often sell trees with dual varieties to meet this need because they will cross-pollinate between each other. When growing these trees, be careful not to let the more vigorous variety outgrow the weaker one. In some plants, self-fertile varieties are available. Now, in many cases, you really don't have to worry too much about it because it's likely to be neighbouring properties with the same species as you are growing, and therefore there will be cross-pollination from bees travelling from one property to another. I have an apple tree, for example. My neighbour's apple tree, which is right there, is sufficient to actually pollinate my tree, so it's not really too much of a problem. I am starting to produce a range of tips on different aspects about growing fruit in your garden, as I'm showing here. Make sure that you are subscribed and also like this tip so that you are sure to see these as they become available. I'm hoping to produce them one a week for the next few weeks. If you're new to my channel and have actually done a search and found this tip, you can look under my playlist and you'll see the range of aspects such as growing fruit trees in ornamental gardens, training, pruning, pollination requirements. They're all relevant issues, and I will be covering the full range as well as specific fruit themselves. Now, I am actually having to film this in the rain today, and I've got my camera under an umbrella, so I think I actually need to get out of this rain and dry myself off. So thank you very much for watching this one through to the end, and do feel free to put comments underneath because I do find them very interesting and I do learn from them and I always reply to them. Thanks again.